Alrighty, full disclosure, I am recording this. I've seen up to, let me confirm here, I believe it's 7:07. Yeah, I've seen up to 7:07 as I record this, even though this video is for episode 700. Just, in case I reference something that happens after 700. That happened to me one time. I forget what show I was watching, but I did something that was like a character pyramid or a character corner or a Q&A or something. And I recorded it later, but then I stuffed it into the episode where it was supposed to be. And somebody said, you reference this thing that happened later. That means you're pre-watching this, and you're one of these reactors who's faking all the reactions. No, I just am disorganized. I don't do things when they're supposed to be done. Typically, what'll happen is I record in 10 episode blocks. I'm under the gun. I'm behind schedule, as I am this week, as I am every week. So I don't want to take the time to record 5 episodes out of 10 and then stop and do a Q&A, which is going to take me probably an hour minimum. Then record another 5 episodes, because that means the people that were waiting for these 10 episodes on early access are going to have to wait a couple extra hours. So I don't want to do that. But then I force it upon myself the next week. So here they're still going to have to wait an extra hour. They just have to wait an extra hour next week. But it just feels better to do it ahead of time before I start recording the reactions to the episodes, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to record 708, 10 episodes, right? It's better to do the Q&A at the beginning. But I couldn't do the Q&A at the beginning last week because I hadn't gotten to 700 yet. You see what I mean? So this is how this shit happens, right? I could be better organized, but, that would make me a different person. So anyway, here's our Q&A. Minute and a half in, we haven't done any questions yet. This is pretty much par for the course for Q&A. I told you, I go by the Kevin Smith thing. I saw him one time, he talked for an hour and he answered 4 questions. That son of a bitch will talk and talk and talk and talk just based on one question. The questions don't really matter. They're irrelevant. He's just going to talk about what he wants to talk about. Kind of like me here with this, right? All right, well, we're going to start with 4 weeks ago, I did a post talking about the episode 700 Q&A will be about these 3 people, and it shows Zoro, Sanji, and Nami. Any and all questions about them up through episode 700 will be addressed. And since there are 3 of them, tell me your sex, marry, kill. Because I can't say F. I can, but I'll be demonetized. Ranking of them. What was interesting about that, and you'll see when we get into this, when I get to people's responses. Everybody was talking about, sex, marry, kill from a purely their orientation point of view. Somebody, I don't remember who it was. We'll see it when we get there. They're talking about, I'm attracted to, I don't remember what it was. It was one of the other genders. So yeah, that limited their options of the sex, right? Since there's 2 guys and a girl, maybe they were attracted to girls. I can't remember. But this isn't really about you personally. At least this is the way I take the question. This isn't about you personally becoming a fictional character, entering this fictional world, and having sex with one of these people, or marrying one of these people, or killing one of these people. You got to look at the spirit of the question, not the actual literal question, right? Because the literal question, yes, that's what it seems to be about. It seems to be about who would you screw, who would you marry, and who would you kill. What the question is actually asking, there's 2 levels of this. Let's talk about surface level first. Just surface level, which one of you do you think, which of the 3 do you think is best at sex? Now, that may be a more complicated question than you think. Because think about it. Let's break this down. Nami is selfish. So she's going to be, a selfish person is never good in bed, right? Because they only want their own desires fulfilled. And Sanji is the opposite of selfish. He wants to do everything for his partner, clearly the way he acts, right? So he's going to do everything for them. Well, that's no fun either, because the best sex is when you're giving and receiving. You get as much pleasure from giving them pleasure as you do from what they're doing with you. But if all they want to do, if all they're focused on is you and all they want to do is you, they don't want anything themselves, that sucks, right? So those 2 are polar opposites of each other in bed, which leaves by default Zoro. But Zoro is super strong, stoic, he doesn't share his emotions. He probably would be the best in bed, if we think about this, if we actually break this down. First of all, like I said, the other 2 are just eliminated because they're extremes. Extreme selfishness, extreme giving, you're eliminated both ways. Which, Zoro by default. But Zoro, super strong, so he's going to blow your back out. That's not good. And really, like I said, again, it's not about us personally. It's not about me personally. I'm talking about prospective partners. Like, if I'm to grade these people, if I have somebody who's whatever orientation these guys are, I assume they're straight, but we don't know. Whatever orientation they are, if I have a friend and I'm trying to pick the best person to pair them off just for a one night stand, this is what I'm talking about. It's not just you, what you want, right? Who do you think the best person in bed is, objectively speaking, right? Like I said, by default, it has to be Zoro. But I'm trying to figure out if there is anything that cuts against that. You know, no pun intended, since he is the swordsman. Well, he's a swordsman, right? Swordsman, metaphor. He's the best swordsman in the world, metaphor, probably. He can really make it dance, right? You know, so, I mean, all I'm seeing is evidence that he's the best. He's very strong. That could be good or bad. You know, be kind of scary, depending on what kind of partner you are. Definitely, there's a good chance he'll blow your back out. So that could be scary. Doesn't talk much. That could be good or bad. He doesn't really seem to care about physical comforts. Maybe he'll just be bored with it all. Maybe he'll be bored of sex, right? Like, because you don't really see him pampering himself. All he does is take naps. He doesn't seem to really give a shit about food. Luffy is somebody who satisfies all his desires. So if we're talking about all the Straw Hats, he's probably the best partner. Not even getting into his physical, the things he can do physically. The mind wanders, right? But just as far as like the satisfying his desires, and probably wants to make the other person happy, well, we know about Luffy, he's probably the best. But he's not on the board here, just these three. So I guess if we're talking about the best person just to be in bed with, it's got to be Zoro. That's how I answer the question. It's not just you personally what you want. Yeah, that's the lowest level. You can, okay, yeah, what would you want if it's just you? You're the person with the three of them standing in front of you. You get to pick one. I guess we can do that. I don't find that interesting, but we can do that. But then the second level, like I said, is just the physicality of it all and what we actually think they'd be like in bed. The third level is talking about them as human beings, them as people. We're grading them as people, okay? And I've kind of made those grades obvious. Nami's selfish. Sanji is unselfish to a fault. Zoro, by extension, grades out the best, right? Just as a human being. This talks about way beyond sex at this point. This is about anything, you know? If you enjoy cooking food for somebody, you know, Nami will never say thank you. She'll just take it because she feels like it's owed to her because she's selfish and she'll eat it all and you won't get any. And so that won't be very good. And Sanji will never be happy with what you're making because he wants to make something for you, right? Zoro's the one, you know, see what I'm saying? So for objectively grading people, that's what we're talking about. Those are the three levels with which you answer the question. Okay. Second, marry. Now we're talking about you got to spend your life with this person. We're not talking about just romance, who's the best in romance. We can answer the question that way at the lowest level if you want to. You know, we can do that. But the middle level of answering this question, who would make the best lifetime partner? And we're talking about not just romantically and sexually, but also just goal-wise. You know, partners, the best partners, they have the same goals. They want the same things in life, right? You know, if one person wants to work all the time, it's not going to be a good matchup with somebody who loves to take, 6 to 8 weeks vacation every year. That's not going to fly. Those two things don't match. Those people have they have disjointed goals. It's not going to work. So, objectively speaking, now this is much harder to answer because I think sex can be like, it's pretty much universal what's good and what's bad. I know people have kinks and they have certain things, there's certain little turn-offs you may individually have that would change the equation. Generally speaking, if somebody's what they call a dead F, they just lay there during sex, that's objective, pretty universally considered bad. So I'm saying, so that can be pretty universally categorized, right? There's certain categories of things, certain boxes you can put people in that, they're no good in bed, and they're probably great in bed, right? But obviously there's a lot of individual nuance to that question. Individual things you may like or dislike that would change the equation, like I said. Marriage, much more of that. It's so much more. There's so much because you're talking about spending your life with this person, right? So one person, they would love to spend their life with somebody who jokes all the time. They're always cracking a joke. Another person, they'd love to spend their life with somebody who is serious all the time because they're practical. They're going to get shit done. They don't waste time joking around. So there is no one size fits all. But we can kind of answer this just in the, what would, generally speaking, what makes a person a good lifetime partner? Well, you're going to feel safe with Zoro. So if you're looking for safety, physical safety, probably emotional safety because he's very loyal and emotional, he's not going to cheat around on you in any way, shape, or form, or financially, whatever. You know, he's loyal and you'll be physically safe with him. Sanji, again, it's all about you. Obsessed with just pleasing every aspect of your life and meeting all your needs. And some people would enjoy that. I had an aunt who had a partner that way. She enjoyed it. Most people probably wouldn't. And you're going to eat very well for the rest of your life. So that's a plus. Nami, greedy, but if you are in her tribe, she's greedy for you as well as against you, right? If you're her partner, lifetime partner, you're never going to be without money probably or anything else you need. Because her greedy ass is going to find a way to get it. She's also resourceful, intelligent. She's hilarious. A lot to work with there. So, me personally, the sex would be Zoro. Mary probably would be Nami because, I've spent the last couple years with a lot of food insecurity and just, a lot of times not know where my next dollar's coming from. So it'd be nice to never have to worry about any of that shit for the rest of your life. She's going to get it done. She's also super sharp and she recognizes scams, and I want somebody like that. Because I just, the way I grew up, I'm always paranoid about getting scammed and all this shit, right? So for me personally, she would be the one. But if we're looking objectively, Zoro might be the answer again. Now I know you got to pick one each, right? So if we're doing one each, then obviously it's going to be Zoro sex, Nami murder, Mary, Nami Mary, Sanji murder. That's just obvious, right? But I'm really saying the ideal candidate for each category, right? I think it's Zoro again because you're going to have the physical security and he's so loyal. You doubt the loyalty of the other two. First of all, Sanji, can we say 100% he wouldn't cheat on somebody? Every new woman who walks through the door, he goes nuts. Now maybe that'd be different if he had a ring on his finger. If he's married, maybe it would all change. We don't know. If he has some kids with you, maybe it all change. Maybe his eyes would never wander again. I have no idea. I'm not going to besmirch his legacy and his honor by suggesting otherwise, but I would be definitely nervous. Yeah, I would wonder. Because Dan, that dude is fickle as they come, man. As far as kill goes, who's the most annoying? Well, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Sometimes greedy, selfish people are annoying. So, you would kill her. Me, Sanji's the most annoying. Obviously, by a mile. He's the most annoying Straw Hat out there because he's a one-trick pony. He's got one joke. It's the author's fault. It's not the character's fault. There's so much you could have done with this character. But I think he got the one-trick pony thing going on, and then he, halfway through the story, he'd been writing this 15 years. He got bored of the Straw Hats and started focusing on all the new characters and the extras and the guest stars and recurring characters like Law and all this stuff. And so he stopped developing everybody else. So they kind of got stuck where they were when he stopped developing them. So I think Sanji suffers from that. I think if he hadn't gotten bored of the characters, maybe if he had written this in a shorter time frame where he was still as passionate about the Straw Hats as when he started, Sanji would have had an entire character arc and would have been going somewhere. All of them are kind of stuck in place, I think. Luffy will get his full story arc. I don't think anybody else will. So Sanji will probably, like I said, he's stuck in place. So, but we got to deal with what he is. This is what he has, not what he should have been, not what he could have been if the author hadn't got bored. This is what he is. So, kill, right? He's annoying. I don't know if there's anything about Zoro that's annoying. People do say he's boring. I don't get that. I don't think he's boring. I do think I can see where people are coming from when they say that. They want more one-liners. They want more drama, maybe. There's more, at least you can say something about the other two. They're dramatic. They have a lot of drama. There's more sight gags with them. You don't get many sight gags with Zoro. His big gag, his one trick is he gets lost. That's not funny. So I can see where people say he's boring. I don't think so, but I can see where people say he's boring. That does make sense. But as far as annoying, I've never heard anybody say they thought he was annoying. I have heard people say they think Nami's annoying. I have heard people say they think Sanji's annoying. So me, by the category, just talking objectively, who would annoy, which of these three would annoy the most people? The largest slice of the population? Probably Sanji. People hate fickle characters. Was it Pepe Le Pew going around trying to harass all these chicks and stuff? Cast that look like. Uh, why wasn't it ever just another skunk? Why was it always a cat that looked like a skunk? They would get the paint on their back, and so they look like a skunk. Why was that? I suppose it's because a skunk would probably be attracted to him, and we get the struggle since these characters. The cat can't talk. I don't think. I don't think the cat ever talks. We know immediately because he's not a skunk that the cat will not return the affection. Is not interested in the attention. If it was a skunk, if they ever did the cartoon with a skunk, a female skunk, then that would be less clear. Why is the rejection happening? Here it's obvious from the jump, from the rip, the cat's going to reject the skunk. So these little 8-year-olds watching the cartoon, they don't have to wonder what's going on here. There's nothing to puzzle out. He's automatically going to reject it. So it's probably just clear storytelling. That's why they always. But the start of everybody's cartoons, there was a different reason why the cat had the white paint stripe on the back. They go under a door that had been painted, or a paint pail falls over just as they're walking past, or whatever. There's always a different reason. But they get the stripe, and he thinks it's a skunk. Dumbass. Anyway, people hate that character. So that's what he's saddled with. So I think he would annoy the most people. So I think if we were to poll 1,000 people, most of them would say Zoro in bed, Nami with a ring, and Sanji in a casket. Oh, I got through that in just 15 minutes. Less time than I thought it'd take. All right. My other question was if you could bring one future Straw Hat forward and add them to the team instead of one of these three, they wouldn't join the crew until later. Who would you bring forward and who would you replace? For instance, I would bring Robin forward and replace Zoro with her. You don't lose much in fighting ability, but you gain a lot of intelligence. Several earlier arcs would have been solved way faster and easier. I still agree with myself from the past, from 4 weeks ago. Robin definitely would have brought her up immediately. She's powerful. She's intelligent. And she can start her information gathering sooner. She would definitely be my choice. Replacing Zoro. I don't know if I agree with that anymore. I think I'd replace Sanji. Just the less we have to spend time with him, the better. Yeah, I think that's probably the move because then you'd have an even stronger crew, right? Because she could do the thing, and he could do the thing, and Luffy could do the thing, and Nami can be the cheerleader, right? I know it may sound sexist, but she's not really the fighter everybody else is. She's pretty good these days, but she's not what everybody else is. All right, so let's see what other people said. This is Wrathful. Wrathful Serapi. He or she has commented a lot, but I can't pronounce the name. Wrathful something. I would bring forward a future. This person would bring forward a crew member I haven't met yet. So there's going to be more people added to the crew. You could say that's a spoiler. I don't actually think it is because there's no way I believe we were never getting another Straw Hat crew member. I think we're getting another ship or two. I think by episode 1000, there's going to be 3 ships in the fleet. One of them's going to be captained by Usopp, one of them's going to be captained by Luffy, and one of them's going to be captained by somebody we haven't met yet who brings their own ship into the fleet. That's what I think's going to happen. We're going to have three ships. They can have their separate adventures and just be able to do more shit. Because being able to project power with more ships is just where it's at, right? So I think that's definitely going to happen. So there's no way I believe we were never getting another crew member. So it's not a spoiler. He said he feels like Zoro and Sanji being the more early members was kind of crucial for the brother-like relationship between them and Luffy. And with each other. So the crew member would have to be replaced would have to be Nami. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you come from with that. Like, if you, I don't really care about the sibling rivalry, by the way, between Zoro and Sanji. I don't care. Like, I don't give a shit. But I'm sure a lot of people like it, and a lot of people think it's funny. I can like it because, like, what happens between the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the Civil War movie, I just saw reactions to that today, and those two are so funny. They annoy each other so much, and then we see it again in the TV series, which I thought was really good. I like that. So I can like the sibling rivalry who are people who are not actually brothers. I can like that. There are times when it can work, but it just doesn't because I just don't like Sanji. He's a one trick pony. That's why it doesn't work here. But I understand other people would be into that. They're saying this new crew member would be unbelievably more powerful than anybody they face. Pre-time skip. This sounds like a badass. I wonder if he's talking about Jimby. But he said I hadn't met him yet. You don't really know about a future crew. Well, probably because Jimmy's not officially a member of the crew, may never be a part of the crew. But if we had Jimby against Arlong, that shit would have been over in 2 seconds. Jimmy would have stomped him out. So, and some of these other people we face too, right? Buggy, no problem. So yeah, that I can see where why the author did things the way they did, and they do agree with me because I agree with this. Nami not being present for a large portion of the series would be kind of sad, though. I agree. Okay, sex Nami, marry Sanji, kill Zoro. Well, that's just mean. Yeah, we're not all gonna agree. Okay, Hunter Stone, sex Sanji, marry Zoro, kill Nami. God damn, man. Well, we're not all going to agree. Boring answer, but I wouldn't change anything about when somebody joins the Straw Hats. Well, yeah, I mean, objectively speaking, everybody joins the crew when they join the crew for a reason, right? Like, you can't have Frankie join the crew in the first 10 episodes. He's just too overpowered, right? Plus, you have to have this whole adventure before it makes sense for him to join because of his personality. Ditto Robin. Like, yeah, they join when they join for a reason. But I'm just saying, like, if this was reality, like, if, if it was real life, that's not the narrative flow of your adventures isn't a factor. It's, let's just get through this shit as easy as we can. Like, for instance, look at your life right now, look at your friends. Now, fast forward backwards, I guess that'd be fast reverse. Fast reverse backwards to when you're 14, okay? Take your best, most useful friend you have now who you didn't have back at 14 and send them back in time to be your friend back then. How would that have changed your life? Maybe they're a really good fighter. So that fight you got into when you got in 15 would have played out a very different way. Or maybe they had rich parents, so you get to go on a vacation at the beach or something. Or, maybe they get a car really early or a motorcycle or something so you can get transportation faster. Or they're a good wingman, or it's a member of the opposite gender or something. And so that just helps your dating dynamics. If you're good friends with, if you're straight and you're good friends with the opposite gender, you can look cooler by comparison. There's all, I can't even, like, I don't know your life, right? But there's so many ways these things could have been different. Like, my best friend, I met him when I was 26. We're the same age. So if we had known each other when we were 14, our lives would have been very different. I would have been there for him, he'd have been there for me, and things would just they would have been very different, right? So I could think of 100 different ways it would have improved my life to have known that person sooner. Same with my other best friend. She's younger than me, but still, there are scenarios where, like, it could have been better for my life. I definitely could have been helped her because she had a really shitty 18 to 24 stretch of her life. Horrible. If I had been around, I could have helped her. So yeah, you could think about it like that, right? Like, real life doesn't have to worry about the narrative flow or how we ruin the story. So I'm kind of approaching this that way, right? Yes, it would ruin the story. It'd be a shitty story. It wouldn't be the famous story we know about, and it would probably been over in 400 issues. 400 episodes of the anime. But I'm just saying, if we can do a little mental exercise where that's not a consideration, it's kind of fun to think about, right? Like, shifting things back and forth. Who would have had such a major impact? There is the other thing, but to think about this though. Would some of these people even care about joining Straw Hats if they didn't have a rep already? Would Robin want to join Luffy and Zoro when it's just Luffy and Zoro? And how did they get the Going Merry? How did they get that ship? I don't remember how they got it. How the hell did they get that? It wasn't. Somebody didn't make it for them, did they? Shit, I'm gonna have to look that up. That feels like that should just be common knowledge in my brain. After the defeat of the Black Cat pirates at Syrup Village, the Going Merry is given by Kaya as a gift for saving her from Kurio. Who the hell are these people? Who's Kaya? Who is Kurio? I've never heard those names before in my life. The ship was originally designed by Merry for Kaya as a luxury vessel and bore flags with his insignia on them before being replaced with that of the Straw Hat Pirates. I watched every episode of the series. How do I not know any? Who are these effing people? Who is Kaya? I've only seen the shit once, man. Oh, shit. That's, oh, Jesus Christ. Of course, what the hell would I know about her? Usopp's little friend, right? Is pseudo girlfriend. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. Jesus. Man. We're going back a long way. We're going 650 episodes, something like that. Okay, I got you. And and then Usopp just kind of invited himself aboard, didn't he? Or, no, they invited him, but he didn't really ask. I remember during the fight, when they fought each other, this came up. You know, now that I think about it, I never even asked to be part of the crew. You invited me, and I just came along. I should have got my own ship. Like, he did that, right? He was kind of pissed about that. He's like, now that I think about it, never now that you think about it. You should never do this. So anyway, my point was, it's Zoro and Nami, Usopp, and Luffy. And they just got to Going Merry. Would Robin give a shit about joining them? You know, I think she joined them because they impressed her with what they had done to Crocodile. But let's say she just left Crocodile behind. Would they be worth her joining them? Probably not. And Jimmy, would he give a shit? No, probably not. Unless there was some blood tie that he knew about. Like, you know, who Luffy's related to and all this stuff. You know, that's a good question. Probably not. Like, you guys are just too... There's small fries and there's tiny fries. You guys are tiny fries. You tiny ass fry. So, you know, that's what we're working with. Yeah, it's just... It's fun to think about. I think I lost my train of thought, so we'll just keep going. It just blew my mind. It's like... I didn't remember how they got to Going Merry. Didn't know who the hell Kuro is or who Kaya is or any of those people. But it's been 650 episodes. So that's where we're at. All right, anyway. My question. We know very little about their past. Sanji was born in North Blue and was a cook in the East Blue on a random ship before finding Zeph. I do remember Zeph. And becomes a chef on the Barati. Nami was found in a war-torn country as a baby with unpronounceable name as her sister. And Zoro seemed to be an orphan as he trained at the dojo. So my question is, whose history would you want to learn more about? I mean, here's the thing. You gave the bare bones of these three people. But isn't that really what... We've learned the interesting shit about their past? We probably know the most about Nami. We actually saw extensive flashbacks of her past. Both as a kid and then after she joined the pirates. I feel like we know the most about her, right? With Zoro, we saw an incident. And that's about it, right? And then with Nami, with Sanji, we saw an incident, you know, trapped on the island. And that's about it. We saw, like, he had an incident, he was trapped on the island, and, you know, there was food and all this stuff, and you know, they were starving. And then he worked at the floating restaurant. That's about it. I don't know if anything interesting happened to any of the three of these people, other than what we saw. So, I don't know. I guess the only possibility for adventure is Zoro. I guess we could say it's Nami because, I mean, was she ever doing, like, you know, pirate raids with the other Arlong pirates? Or was she always just a free agent, always out there trying to get money to bring back to collect enough money? I think she was just always a free agent. So there could be adventures where she's stealing money from people that could be interesting, right? We saw her at the beginning of the series. That's how we saw her. She was like scheming and trying to steal and all this shit, right? So those you could have adventures. You could have like a spin-off series of 20, 30 episodes, day in the life of throughout the course of her young teenage years and till I guess she's 17 when I think she's 17 when she meets Luffy, right? So 15 to 17, a day in the life of 20 times, 20 various adventures, right? That could be interesting. I don't know if there's anything that would happen to Sanji that would be interesting. I'm not saying that because I don't like the character. He cooked. Once he got to the restaurant, he just learned how to cook, and then he cooked every day, as far as we know. Now, you could have like adventures where people come into the restaurant and things happen, and maybe he has to restore order because there's a fight that breaks out, or he likes a girl and then she's with the mob boss. You could do that, but that'd be more about the guest stars. It wouldn't be about Sanji. So the only thing that would be interesting is if a guest star who's interesting comes in and then Sanji interacts with them. With Nami, it could be about her, but then it would really be about the people she's robbing that would make it interesting, I think. With Zoro, seeing him hunt down various pirates, how he would do it. Does he just walk up to every one of them and just start a fight, knock him out, drag him back, and collect the money? Probably. Maybe that wouldn't be interesting either, because the interesting part would be, okay, with this pirate, I can't just go up and fight him. I got to trick him. So here, let me get this person and hire them to do something and trick this pirate to go into this room and I could lock the door and it could be some kind of Ocean's 11 kind of thing scheme you could do, or a James Bond scheme, or a Mission Impossible with the mask, or something to fool some of these people, or otherwise engage with them rather than just walking up and fighting everybody. But all of them, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the reason we didn't get any more flashbacks is there's nothing else of interest, right? Super interesting. You can make it interesting. If somebody says, look, man, I'll give you $1,000 to write a 3,000 word story about an adventure Zoro had before he met Luffy. You could do that. That would be no problem at all. There's ground there to do that without you have to make up a bunch of shit. I mean, it'd be made up, but I mean, like, you don't have to retcon anything. You don't have to pretend he was in the Navy when that's never been stated about the character just to have an adventure. Him being a bounty hunter is the framework. So there's an established framework. With Nami, there's an established framework. Even with Sanji, there's an established framework. Guests could come into the restaurant and you can make an adventure. So you could produce a story within what we know that would not break canon and wouldn't be a retcon, but it would be filler, right? There's nothing, I don't think there's anything we could learn that would add anything to what we already know these characters. I'm trying to think if there's anybody who's currently on the Straw Hats that this is not true about. Because Usopp, we've got everything. There's nothing else we need to know about him from his past before he met Luffy. Robin, it would be interesting. I think with Robin, there's stuff, because we still don't know exactly what motivates her. She seems kind. She seems gentle. She seems empathetic. She seems caring. She definitely has dealt with a lot of pain. We saw that. But do any of those things I just said, do they fit the description of somebody who would work with Crocodile and do evil things for Crocodile in his employ? So how do we rectify that? Did she always just pretend to be evil because she needed him and she was scared of him? I don't remember the exact reason why she said she worked with him. I think it was he had her over the barrel because she was wanted by the Navy, so he would protect her from that, but like he could out her, so she had to work with him. So I think that's what it was. But did she commit evil acts in the service of that? Did she do that? We could explore that. We could unpack that. We could answer that question, and I think that would inform her current character, because I'm still suspicious of her. Hunter Stone says it's fine that she didn't say anything to Luffy about meeting his father, because Luffy doesn't care about his father, and he doesn't care about any of that shit. But that's Luffy's motivations. That's not Robin's motivations. You're saying Luffy doesn't give a shit, so there's no reason for her to tell him. It doesn't matter if Luffy gives a shit. What matters is the fact she didn't try it. She didn't attempt. She didn't make a single attempt. Maybe he does care, for all you know. She didn't even give it a shot. Even in passing, it never came up in conversation. That's intentional. I once had a friend who was dating a guy for 6 months. And I talked to this friend every day. Is when we were in college. So we were kind of like study buddies, right? I talked to her every single day about everything in her life. And after 6 months, she broke up with this guy. She was a wreck. And I never even known she was dating him, right? And so she tells me like she'd been dating this guy for 6 months and all that stuff. And so I helped her through his rough time. She had a rough couple days and all that stuff. Once she got over it, I was like, well, why didn't you ever mention the fact you dated this person? And she's like, oh, it just never came up. I'm like, I'm going to call you on this bullshit. You're telling me in 6 months we talk every day about everything I found out about your siblings and your dad and your dog was sick, and it just never came up in conversation. You're literally dating a human being for 6 months, and it never came up in any of these conversations. And she's like, yeah, you're right. I was worried that maybe you had romantic feelings for me, and you might be upset if I was dating somebody. She didn't know where it was going. We were young. We were in college. And as it turned out, I was not interested in her. And so I was like, well, it's just no worries, whatever. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about here. You don't live every day with somebody for days, weeks, or months and not mention something unless there's intentionality behind that. It doesn't just not cross your mind to mention something. Now, the difference between the story I told you and what Robin did is the story I told you, that was ongoing. Like, she would leave the college and hang out with this dude. It wouldn't come up. So what are you doing after school today? I'm just going to go home, when she's actually going to see him, right? See, that's the kind of shit I'm talking about. Whereas Robin, if she had conversations with Luffy's father, that was in the past. It's not ongoing. So you could say it wouldn't come up every day. I still think it's suspicious, right? So I wonder if there's something in flashbacks or just learning more about her that would explain this in a non-nefarious way, because I'm willing to entertain the idea, at least up to wherever Hunterstone is watched, it has never come out that she's secretly stabbing Luffy in the back. I think there's going to be a great traitor, just so you know. My prevailing theory is there's going to be a great traitor among the Straw Hats, and that's going to be the final story arc. One of the Straw Hats, Jesus sat there at the table, and he looked at all of them and said, one of you will betray me. One of the people at this table will betray me. That's going to happen. There is a Judas among us. There's a fox in the hen house. There is a traitor, maybe not on board yet, but will be or has been on board for a long time. Somebody stabbing Luffy in the back before the end of this series. It'll be one of his close friends, because that's high drama. That's the way stories work. Somebody is a betrayer, and it's going to break the internet when it happens if it hasn't happened yet. Probably hasn't happened yet. So, for instance, My Hero Academia, the manga, apparently finished. I saw several recognizable, very familiar names trending on Twitter and just immediately closed the app. Next day, I peeked. There's still some names from My Hero trending. Immediately closed the app. Took me like 3 days. This shit happened and broke the internet. I don't know what it was. Thank Christ, because I'm reacting to that series. But the day, you will mark my words, because I'm sure we haven't reached this point yet in the manga. The day that happens, you come back to me and you apologize. Because somebody is betraying Luffy. I'm calling my shot, man. I'm like, what's his face? The big fat ass, Babe Ruth. I am calling my shot right here. I'm pointing right here. This is what's going to happen. Somebody is going to betray Luffy's ass. It might be Robin. So, clearly hasn't happened yet. Or I don't think Hunter would have been as strongly opinionated about it doesn't matter that she's never told Luffy about Dragon. Because here's the thing. She has ties to the Navy. Now, we think this beef is squashed. We think they're not after her anymore after the CP9 thing. But the CP9 thing showed us how traumatic this hit on her life was. Now, maybe them rescuing her forever washed that fear away. But maybe there's still that fear in the back of her head. So maybe somebody gets to her at some point. Maybe it hasn't even happened yet in the story. But somebody will get to her and say, look, man, we're the Navy. We're going to wipe you out. Whatever. If I was a good writer, I'd be doing that. So I'm not going to simulate the dialogue. But I'm just going to say they get to her somehow and convince her to somehow betray Luffy. Maybe where he's going, where he is, what his weakness is. Everybody knows about water, but maybe there's another weakness with Devil Fruit that nobody knows about that gets discovered. And she can let them know. Who knows what it'll be? It'll be some form of betrayal. So Probably the worst betrayal would be somebody giving information to an enemy who then kills a different member of the Straw Hat. And that's something you can't forgive. You snitch us out, and then Usopp dies. That would break the internet. You ain't ever forgiving that shit, right? That's something you can't walk back from. Usopp and Luffy can fight each other, and we think they're never getting back together, but they do, because a certain line had not been crossed. But what about next time? So, anyway, Robin is the one I think would be the best to get flashbacks of, because I think we can still inform her character. There's still mysterious shit about her. We don't really understand what makes her tick. Can you accurately predict the way she would respond to a situation? A random scenario. I bet every other Straw Hat, you can accurately predict how they would respond to a random scenario. You go into a bar, and you order a drink, and you pay for the drink, and you try to pick it up and put it in your mouth, and then somebody comes over and grabs it out of your hand, and they drink it all, and then they spit it in your face. Tell me how each one of these Straw Hats would respond to that. Usopp, depending on how big the person is, let's say it's a really big person, would be like, oh, I'm sorry, it's my fault, and then leave, right? Because he doesn't want to get killed. Chopper would find a way to blame himself. Frankie would laugh and kick the person's ass. Zoro would kill he would kill him. There wouldn't even be he would murder this person. Sanji would be too busy looking at the hot-ass bartender. Luffy would laugh and think it's funny and then kick their ass. You know what I mean? So we know how every single person responds to this random scenario I just pulled out of my ass. Except for Robin. How would Robin respond to that? I have no idea. She's a mystery. That's why we need more flashbacks. She's the one Straw Hat of all the ones we have so far that I really wouldn't mind seeing more about their past. More about the way they think. I would love to read her journal, her diary, right? Like, none of these people write in a diary. Maybe Nami does. Because, she'd be doing the maths. I think she may also have a journal. I can't tell. I would love to read Robin's diary. With her permission, of course. Okay, we need to pick up the pace here. I had to save it because we're 45 minutes into it. So, let's pick up the pace. All right, so that's my answer to that question. Now we're down to Ariel. Sex, marry, kill is a hard one because I wouldn't want to do any of those with them. This may have been the one I was thinking of. It's just like, you're thinking about you personally, right? I'm not really talking about you personally. I'm talking about, I explained earlier. I won't reiterate. It's a hard one because I wouldn't want to do any of those with them. Like any of them. We're even talking, you don't even want to kill any of them. A little disappointed. But if I have to choose, sex, Sanji, marry, Zoro, and kill Nami. God damn, Nami be getting killed a lot. Y'all some haters. Although she is greedy. That would tend to annoy people. So yeah, fair enough, I guess. Sorry, Nami, but if I were into women in any way, I would probably switch her with Sanji. I'm not sure about any other crew member switch out. I haven't watched it. Yeah, that's the thing too. Ariel was actually watching with me. So she doesn't have any more idea what's coming than I do. Because she'd be watching Naruto, One Piece, and My Hero Academia. Although I think she watches My Hero Academia ahead, right? I think she had seen it all. But the other two she's watching with me because I watch a shit ton. I watch 10 a week, right? That's a lot. It's a lot to do. Alrighty, well, that's it for that one. I do have a second thing. That was one of my posts, by the way. I have a second post I want to address. Up to episode 7 under One Piece, who has the best childhood backstory? Okay. Law got 67% of the votes. Robin got 30% of the votes. Luffy got 3%, and Ace/Sabo and Zoro got 0. Speaking of haters, y'all some haters. Y'all, man, damn, y'all be hating. We had to pick somebody, right? Doesn't mean you hate the other 4. But I'm astonished that Zoro and Ace/Sabo did. I guess probably Ace/Sabo, if people felt like that was addressed. What was it, 10 episodes of flashbacks? 5 to 10? They had a lot of flashbacks. People probably feel like that was addressed. So fair enough. Zoro didn't get much, but people think he's boring, so I guess I understand that. Luffy only getting 3%. I'm wondering about that because what more do we need to know about his? No, it's not what do we want more of his backstory. It's who had the best backstory, right? Oh, I'm actually misunderstood my own question. I said that we had gotten enough of Ace/Sabo because it was addressed. Like I was still thinking about the other thing. Who should get the most flashbacks, right? to actually look at the actual question and comprehend it. Reading comprehension, reading is fundamental. So nobody thinks Zoro had the best backstory. Fair enough. He didn't get much, right? See, I think it kind of ties into what I was saying. He didn't get much. He got maybe 2 episodes worth, maybe 2. Maybe it was just 1 back then. That's how we did it back then. He trained with a girl. She inspired him, and then she supposedly died. So that's it. I think that's the only thing we ever got from him. He was a determined kid, one of many in this show. Man, these kids are always self-starters, self-actualized. But people had way more dramatic backstories and they lasted longer and it's more recent, so I can understand him getting 0. Ace Sabo, that is a little surprising considering the fact that Ace, we got the backstory right after he died. That should have hit harder for you. And then Sabo came back from the dead and is currently involved in a storyline. And he got 0, no votes. I find that interesting. I feel like if you were allowed to have 3 votes with 1 vote being first place, 1 being second, 1 being third, Ace would get some points. Ace Sabo would get some points. The fact that this is single, you get 1 vote, is the only reason why they have 0. Same with Luffy. His backstory is damned interesting. So, Robin and Law do have better backstories. If I was going to vote, I would have voted Robin, right? But they have better backstories than Luffy, but I could see getting more than 3% of the vote, right? Luffy had a lot going on. And maybe him and Ace Sabo, they kind of split the vote, even though Luffy has extra backstory that is not related to those two. He has shit that happened before and after, right? I think the Shanks shit happened before he met Ace, didn't he? I believe so, because he had already had his fruit power. Right, yeah, so we've already done that. But it is interesting to me that people are shitting on Luffy's backstory by omission. I don't think if I was to put who had the worst backstory, I don't think any of these people would get votes. Who has the worst backstory probably would be Usopp. I'm going to ask that question. I will ask that question as soon as I finish this recording. It'll be fun to find out what people think that is. Law, I don't even think, as of episode 700, if we even finished this backstory. I'm at 707. I think we're still... I don't think we know... Oh, no, we do. Okay, yeah, wait a minute. Daffy did kill Corazon or whatever his name is, and Law had the silent spell around him so he couldn't protest. And he snuck away later. Yeah, so I think we're done with now. We weren't done at episode 700. And that's what the rule is. But yeah, it's good. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. And it's really well informed what's happening currently in the story. For me, it's going to be Robin, though, because there's just the tragedy of it. And the fact she was so young and she had nobody. For me, it's like I feel like everybody else leaned on an adult pretty far into their childhood. Garp was around for Luffy. Garp was around for Ace. Sabo had the other two that he kind of leaned on, They all kind of leaned on each other. Zoro had his sensei. Law had Corazon, and, some of the others when he was with the group, they kind of helped raise him up a little bit, right? And he was pretty self-sufficient by the time they parted ways. Robin had nobody. She had to be completely self-reliant from a very young age. To me, that's the tiebreaker. She had nobody. She is the strongest willed person here. She's like 8 years old, living by herself. No friends, no family, surviving. Doing whatever it takes to survive. Do we know how she got the fruit that she ate? I don't think we've seen that story in flashbacks. That's another reason why I want to see her flashbacks. I don't think we know how she got it. But as we've proven here today, my recall of the 700 episodes is a little shaky, especially that first couple hundred. But yeah, to me, she has the most interesting and tragic backstory, and it tells us the most about her as a human being because she stands on her own. Luffy stands on his own. He doesn't need anybody else, but he had other people when he was a kid. He didn't need them to survive, and there were times when he didn't have anybody, but most of the time he had other people of one form or another. Garp, Ace, Sabo, he had somebody. I don't think Robin ever had anybody. Once she left the village, that got destroyed. I don't think she ever had anybody she could trust or care about or respect or lean on because the giant had died at the same time, right? I don't think she had anybody until she met the Straw Hats. That's a huge span of time we're talking about here. 10 years, 15? Nobody. So to me, that is her tiebreaker. So that's why I pick her. But yeah, that was an interesting poll. I think I'm going to do the other poll now. And I guess that's about it. Maybe I should check the episode 600 Q&A and see if anybody had any further questions there. Because I do ask you to leave questions I can answer later. Nope, no questions. But if you leave questions here in this post, when I get to 800, I will come back and I will look and answer those questions as well. Just another place to cram a question into. Yeah, we have plenty of options.